the king of the Misfit Nation, the Bald Avenger himself, the warrior entrepreneur, and so many other things. The one and only Jason Cisneros. What's up, my brother? Good to see you.
Good to see you, brother. What's your monikers? Like the king of karaoke?
Listen, definitely not the king of karaoke.
The Prince of New Jersey, the business of bees. Like, yeah. I mean,
there you go. The beekeeper, Tony the beekeeper, Get Up and Grow. There's a whole lot of,
drinking some of it right now, by the way.
That's it, buddy. I'm telling you, good stuff in the mud water, which is how I like to have my my mud water as well, with a little bit of that Get Up and Grow. Well, actually, it's the Be Happy Honey, actually, is what it should be. But listen, so we just wanted to come on here today. We are streaming live on Facebook, which, by the way, I don't know if you have your links connected, Jason, or not, but that's all right, one way or another. If not, just share this to your Facebook. And if you're watching on Facebook, by all means, do share this as well to your friends. We're streaming on YouTube as well as LinkedIn. For many, we've got about 150 episodes of the Tony Talks and Get Up and Grow series, where I have conversations with inspirational leaders, change makers, and people that are just inspiring the world and doing good things. And Jason's been on that show, and I haven't done a show in a while, so this is not really going to be that show, but it's going to be a little taste of it.
Well, but I've been on more times than
anybody else.
No, your friend, our mutual friend. Shake that ass.
Joseph McClendon.
That's right.
It's time to get Joseph back on here as well, but that is funny as hell. But I am going to restart that, even if it's just for once a week. I'm not going to do the everyday thing like I was doing before. But there's so much that's been happening around the world, in life, in business. And so it's time to fire that bad boy back up. And I've been, on other people's podcasts, so it's time to fire mine back up. So today I just call this Tony and Jason Unscripted, because we're just popping in just for a quick visit, for a quick talk, because there's lots going on, and just wanted to, again, haven't had this conversation a little bit.
Is anything ever really quick when we talk?
Not really. Not really, or I should say, and my son just came in from college, and his little brother only thinks he's coming in tonight, and he's got a fencing meet in about an hour, like a little over an hour from now. So we're going to surprise him because he doesn't know he's going to be there, and promises to be a momentous experience, because A, he misses him, and B, Nick was actually the captain of his high school fencing team. So I think everybody's going to like to see him as well. So we're on limited time. I got about 45 minutes. So just jumping on today, because like I said, so much going on. So tell me what's going on in your world. And then we're going to share, by the way, one thing that we're definitely going to talk about is something that Jason and I have been working on, because there's so much going on in the world. There's so much upset. There's so much politically that's happening. There's so much unrest in many different ways. And we're just doing our part to give back, to contribute. Jason, of course, is always on the forefront of the human sex trafficking, going out and rescuing children, supporting victims of domestic violence, and just helping, just an all-around good guy, just out there helping people. And I'm doing the same thing. Well, not the same thing, but I'm also out there contributing, do whatever I can, as we should all be doing, right? Because if we all do a little, none of us have to do a lot. But of course, we're trying to recruit more people into that mission each and every day. So tell us a little bit about what's going on, Jay. What are we going to open up today? Because, by the way, if you're on Clubhouse, which we encourage you to check out Clubhouse, Jason and I do a business principles room every Saturday, which I'm going to figure out, not to figure out because I know how to do it. We're going to make sure that we're going to start streaming that show on here as well, because every Saturday we've had so much great content, so many great people and contributors that are coming on, that we must and we should be sharing it out through the interwebs, as it were, right? Through Facebook and LinkedIn and YouTube and all these other platforms. So, Jason, what's on your mind, brother?
A lot's on my mind, but it's been interesting in that show. Like, we're streaming on Facebook right now, and I virtually spend no more time on Facebook anymore. Especially, I'm on Twitter, which I spent no time on. Right, I'm on Twitter all the time now. Like, that's my go-to place. Like that, I've been telling everybody on Facebook, that's where you're going to find me, because I'm not getting shadow banned. We're not getting blocked. Like, you say things or ask relevant questions, you're not getting kicked off, which is still happening on Facebook. And, it's just an interesting time to be alive, And there's a couple of people that I'm friends with and that you're friends with, and they're fairly large players in the world of influence, and and they've got big shows and big audiences and things like that. And I've had several conversations with them lately, and they're on Twitter now, right? And the idea is
going back to Twitter because it's free speech again.
It's such a great, and that's what it's about. It's not about and one of the things that, because I'm definitely not a far right conservative, you know what I mean? I get yelled at by the left for being right and the right for being left, which is exactly where I should be. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I'm not partisan. I love the idea that we can have two conflicting ideas that are mashed together through dialect, through intellect, through conversation, to flush out what's going to be the best idea for the American people. And we've lost that. We have, when you're running companies and you're building businesses, sometimes the leadership loses the trust of the investors or the people working there or the clients or the customers, right? And this particular setting in this particular time on both sides of the aisle have lost the trust of the American people, right? And what they're doing is they're playing that old game of pitting us against each other to say, hey, you guys need to hate each other so that we can stay up here and go, to the dark rooms and drink our bourbon and high five about how stupid people are. And I'm a Republican and they're a Democrat and blah, 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 blah. Right. And it's just wearing through the places like Twitter and places that are now pro free speech, Telegram, the rumbles that popped up, those kind of places just allow that, it's interesting also. And you're watching this happen. What happened when all of the people, and again, I'm just going to say patriots, right? I'm just going to say patriots because there's Democrat patriots, there's Republican patriots, and really on the right, to the right of the argument, got kicked off of everything. And then they went out and tried to start their own things. And they sucked. Like those platforms were really, really bad, but it gave everybody a place to go. And then you had a right-wing echo chamber, which was terrible. I mean, it's just as bad, if not worse, than the left-wing echo chamber.
Right.
And, because I appreciate, dialogue. It really inspires me to be able to have a give and take conversation, as you know. And now on Twitter, everybody's back and there's fruitful conversations going on. And the people that are on the far left are freaking out. They're going to start their own things like Mastodon and they suck, So they go, I'm leaving Twitter, because I can't stand somebody else's opinion being, fighting against my own, and it's not even their opinion, right? Most of the people out there are just repeating talking points to say, I'm a Democrat. Here's what you say. Boom, 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 boom. Racist, misogynistic, da, 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 da. Yeah. And so now they're going to Mastodon and then they're creeping back on Twitter. Like, they're like, I'm leaving, Well,
that's what happens because all the new apps that come out, and obviously we're now experiencing some of those pains as well. All the new apps that come out don't have the benefit of having been on for the last 5, 7, 10 years, like Facebook, like Twitter, like LinkedIn. It takes a while, man. It takes a while to iron all that crap out, right? So they're all going to suck in the beginning, right? And look, even Truth Social, it was tripping on itself. It couldn't even let people in. People wanted to join and they couldn't even join, in the beginning, which obviously stunted the growth of that platform as well, which is what's happening in all of the other ones as well. So Facebook really is kind of that, at this moment, it's still that necessary evil, so to speak.
Well, it's for people, and I hate to say this, but the older generation, you know what I mean? Facebook is gonna be, I think, unless something radically changes, like, somebody comes in and buys it and makes it, that fair transfer of ideas back and forth again. And there's always going to be trolls, and people but the great thing is you can just block them. You know what I mean? Right. Somebody comes on and you just block them. And it's the greatest piece. I used to, go back and forth with them just a little bit. I'm like, why are you so hateful? Like, what if we start out saying we love each other, right? And then we have our discussion and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I just gave up. I'm like, you know what? Cool. there are reasonable people on both sides of every argument, and then there's fringe, right? And then I just block them. I block them all out. And so, but I look at Facebook like the next MySpace.
Yeah.
Right.
Hold on a second. I'm getting a little static. And again, I'm using a different laptop today. So I'm picking up a little static when you're speaking. So I don't know if maybe pull your mic back a little bit, or I'm not sure. I don't know why the static is. It's only a little bit.
It happens in Restream every time, bro.
Yeah, Restream. For God's sakes, if somebody's watching this on Restream, get your shit together. Talking about platforms that really still have kinks. I'm on my son's laptop because we keep having problems with Restream on Firefox and on some of the other apps for no reason. Even the static on here, that shouldn't happen. I don't understand why it happens. We might actually have to go back to Zoom. The guys that have been doing a lot longer, maybe that's what I'm going to wind up doing instead of paying these guys $1,000 or $1,200, whatever the heck, we got to pay every year to use the premium plan. But anyway, that is not a plug for Restream, by the way.
How about now? Is it better now?
Yeah, much better. Much better.
Good.
All right. So going back to what you were saying, which is great, because we were sharing this conversation this morning on Clubhouse, and we were talking about emotional intelligence and emotional growth. And I think that we are so lacking. By the way, Jason, we have to start having these rooms on Clubhouse and on here to have these conversations so that we're blocked, because it is going to get to the point that we're going to get blocked on Facebook or something, or get put in jail.
Again, like I've been kicked off like 3 times already.
Yeah. So, and the reason I say that is sometimes we have conversations and somebody always gets annoyed, right? Your energy, your message is always going to irritate somebody's demons, right? Yeah. But the reality of it is, these are real conversations. On another platform, someone said, well, in this room, we don't really get political. I'm like, it's not politics. It's real freaking life. This is what's happening. Just because it says something that is kind of political, but it's political just because the two knucklehead groups the only two that we have, one is better than the other. You form your own opinion of that. They're always at odds. So everything's political, but it's not. It's real life. It's what's happening. And the reality of it is, what we were talking about is we're lacking emotional intelligence. And why is that happening? And, I have a theory. My theory is that, helicopter parenting, it's not, every kid being named a bully. And if there's a shoving match, they both get into the principal's office. Kids are no longer being taught how to deal with conflict, how to negotiate through conflict, right? So they have all this pent up anger, this pent up frustration. Everybody gets butthurt and oversensitized to I said something now. Oh, that was mean. I'm going to knock you off Twitter. Oh, that happened to somebody. But with the mean tweets, or people are so easily offended that we're weak as a society. Every time we're offended by somebody, you got to understand. And by the way, if you're listening, you're one of those people that gets offended, don't leave, because this is where the growth happens, right? You have to listen to the uncomfortable conversations. You have to be willing. And the crazy part is nobody's willing to have the difficult conversations because they're too political. They're too fringe. You can't talk about politics. You can't talk about religion. You can't talk about, what the hell are we going to talk about then? And because we don't talk about these things, we spiral down this road to hell. Right? More metaphorically, of course, but that's where we are right now. Everybody's offended by everything. And by the way, if everything's a safe space, then nowhere is safe, by the way, because the safer a place there is, the easier it is for the bad guy to walk in and for the wolf to walk in sheep's clothing.
It's what's happening, bro. And first off, I got to say hi to my lovely across the pond there, Jan. Good to see you, lady. Love you. And Bryce, our boy Bryce
is in the house.
Yeah, Bryce is in the house. But it's interesting because it's what's happening. We see things clearly happening, right? I mean, back in 2020, I'll never forget when I started going live and saying, hey, some of this stuff is just a little bit screwy, right? And I lost a ton of my audience. I was like, where's everybody going? Because everybody was so scared. Like, you can be controlled like a puppet on a string when you are afraid, right? And I understand, I kept my mouth shut. I was like, what's happening, with the COVID stuff and what's going on? And then I started to see, oh, okay, we have the worst seated government period in history right now. And they're seeing an opportunity to be able to to anchor in their control, right? To sink their fingers in, to be able to get elected over and over and over again. And I started, and then, sort of my audience started coming back, and we started talking about things again. But we see it right now where you look down in Arizona, what's going down in Arizona, clear as day, Maricopa County, right? Clear as day. And a bunch of ballots showing up after they got done counting, all of this stuff, it's clear as day. And yet down in Brazil, they were like, the military was like, this isn't happening. We're with the people. The people rose up. Like there's this thing going. I don't know how it's going to end, but ultimately Brazil is so close to Venezuela. They're like, at least they have historical context to look at Venezuela and go, no. We know where that leads, right? This left-wing idea that anybody productive should be demonized, and let's lift up our criminals and let's put down our producers, which is exactly, I mean, Elon, as long as he agreed with the left, they loved him.
Right. He was a hero. So to speak.
He was a hero. Now he stands up
for is down. He's getting attacked. They're tracking his plane.
He stands up for the founding document of our constitutional republic. Stop saying that we live in a democracy, because we don't, right? Democracies are massive failures. We don't want one. That's what they're trying to turn this into. It's a constitutional republic. Do your educate yourself. And when we look at that founding document, when we end up with a government like we have right now, has remedies in it for we the people. We don't work for them. We don't have to listen to them. We elect them. They're supposed to be representing the individual.
Well, and that means that you're saying we elect them.
Yeah. Well, now they're being selected, right? Now they're being selected, but ultimately the idea is that have a free and fair election. And at the end of that count, then that person who's been chosen to represent is supposed to represent everybody from their area, right? As the individual, whether you're black, white, gay, straight, it doesn't really matter. You are there to argue on behalf of the sovereignty of the individual, not to succumb to the mob rule, right? That is opposite of what a constitutional republic is. And so going back to your point, I say all of that just to set historical context to your comment, is that people are avoiding conflict because we have things so good that people are bored, and they have to make themselves a victim to get attention, fake attention, bad attention, whatever it is. And on the other side of that is nothing but misery, right? The only time you're ever going to experience true joy is when you're serving other people, right? And that demands of you to increase your skill sets, not for personal gain, but for serving other people. And in serving other people in ethical capitalism, what happens is you get rewarded, right, for those behaviors. And we're living in a world that rewards mobism and victimization, personal victimization. Let me find all the check boxes. And then everybody around him is like, you're right. You're very weak, right? You have this checkbox. You have that checkbox. You have this checkbox. You're set upon. You're owed something.
Well, in today's world, think about it. Almost everybody's a protected class, right? And I'm not saying, by the way, I'm not saying that there shouldn't be protected classes. I'm not saying that people shouldn't be free. By the way, and Jason is the same way. I am and I'll say it here out loud and proud. I am a social liberal. Do whatever you want, but I'm a fiscal conservative. So I'm neither a Democrat nor am I a Republican. I'm somewhere in the middle like the rest of us, right? There's red, there's blue. The reality, most of us are purple. We're the guys in the middle, right? We're the people in the middle. It's really about it's not about the fringe. And it seems like the people that are in charge and the ones making the most noise are the fringe. Are there bad people on the right? Are there, white supremacists there? Yes, there are. Are there people on the left that are equally as bad, if not worse? Yes, there are. Antifa is basically the same thing as the right-wing white supremacists, right? It's really, they're both radical organizations, except one is tolerated, one is celebrated, and the other one is frowned upon, as it should be.
And by the way, there's only like 3 members of the KKK left in the entire world. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
you want to,
Well, there were four, but Robert Byrd died.
yeah, he
People
died.
forget
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
the leader
Biden.
of the Democratic
Yeah.
Party at one
Biden's friend.
point,
Yeah.
right. So,
Biden and Hillary's friend. Yeah.
right. But
But
we're not going to
so,
listen, but we're not going to get too political. We just wanted to set the base. And I will say, you know, it doesn't matter ultimately who wins the election. I just want to make sure that it's a fair and free election. And that's really what we're talking about. And by the way, I just got a new iPhone, right? The new iPhone, it looks at my face. It reads my facial features. There's iris scans when I go through clear in the airport. There's an iris scan. You go through customs. You put your fingers down. There's fingerprints. There's easy ways. So for one side to say, well, it's racist, not everybody can afford to have ID, is bullshit. Really the only, I believe, we're the only country in the world that you can vote without ID. Every other country, including third world countries, if you want to vote, you have to have ID. In Brazil, as a matter of fact, if you're over 18, it's mandatory law that you actually vote. You get fined if you don't vote. And that's exactly how it should be. That way, everybody does get a vote.
We're the only country in the world that has a free and open border. Like it, you know, I mean, you try
incredible.
to get it, try to get into Canada.
You can,
you know, try to
listen,
get into
Canada.
Canada.
You know what happens if you just decide to move to Mexico and don't file the paperwork? You get put in prison.
Right.
You go to prison in Mexico.
It's all nonsense. I mean, I think people, you know, people are tired of hearing all this back and forth, but I mean, ultimately it's a conversation that needs to be had, because at the end of the day, when common sense starts to seem like it's a fringe, we're in trouble.
It's kind of where we are right now, though, Jason. There's so many people. There's so many people. You know, I've been jokingly saying for years that common sense is a flower that doesn't grow in everybody's garden, right?
Right.
So I try to drop as many seeds everywhere I go. But the reality of it is, and you hit it on the head before, everybody's a victim. And here's the thing, and something else that you said that's brilliant. When we have it so good that when we don't have any problems, we create the machinations. We create problems that don't really exist. It's like that thing of overthinking. You know what? All the problems that everyone that's listening to this right now that says, well, that's wrong, that's bullshit, and you know, there's a fight here, or you know, whatever. What happens when a sickness befalls your family or befalls you? Something serious, like serious problems, or you know, you lose your business, or whatever other bad thing that can happen, or you lose your freedom. Like many people have lost freedoms in many places in the world. Still today, they lose freedoms. Or, you know what you do? Somebody kidnaps you or one of your kids, God forbid. Those are real problems. Those are really things that really happen. And then all of a sudden, all the other problems that are being talked about, all the nonsense, all the, you know, call me by he, them, zebra, zeta, beta, you know, it's not even, none of it makes any sense anymore, because we're making things so much more difficult for everyone for no reason. Again, we're in a time that we really need to be teaching our kids about emotional intelligence. We need to live there ourselves. And I heard something this morning that I don't know if you were in the room to hear it. I thought it was brilliant. There was a high school teacher that said, listen, our IQ is usually set about 5th grade. That's where our IQ is usually set, you know, somewhere around 5th grade. Our EQ, our emotional intelligence, is the one thing that keeps changing throughout life. You, Jason Cisneros, we already know, because I know part of your story. You're not the same man today that you were 10 years ago. Never mind when you were 20 years old. Nor am I.
Yeah, thank God.
Right? I mean, shit. I don't even listen. Maybe we'd be friends. Maybe we'd be knocking the hell out of each other. I don't know. Right? But the reality of it is, we're different people because our life experiences teach us. And that's what really is going on here as well, is all these people that are the victims and all the ones that are, you know, doing all of these things. They've not had enough challenges in their life. Going back to my original statement of helicopter parenting, people not learning how to deal with conflict. So you don't deal with conflict. It builds up. Then you start to lash out. So here's some mind-numbing medications. You stop taking mind-numbing medications, you don't know how to deal with this energy, this anger, this rage, this frustration, this anxiety, whatever it is. And then you blow up in so many of the crazy ways that we've been hearing about, right? Or perhaps you do what Twitch did and you end your life, right? Because we don't have these outlets and we don't have honest conversations. And I, for one, I'm tired of it. I kind of blew up this morning. You know, I said, I'm just tired of it. There's not enough places that we can have the conversation because, oh, you can't talk about that. That's taboo. No, that's not taboo. It's life. We have to talk about life. So that's what we're doing here. That's why it's Tony and Jason Unscripted, even though Tony's doing most of the talking. I'm going to throw it over to you.
Well, you know, at the end of the day, brother, I mean, I start out from a place of love. You know, I start out with, I'm going to love you when in our interactions. I'm going to love you beyond that. Even if you attack me or call me names or whatever, I'm going to love you beyond that, but I may choose to not be in your presence. Right. And at the end of the day, and then I also, my home, I mean, we have a multitude of emotions for a reason, but my home is joy, and nobody can force me out of that of my home unless I choose to move out on my own. I cannot be evicted from my emotional
Right.
home. And so many people have chosen frustration or depression or anger or, you know, this, that, or that. Well, Jason, you know, there's all these arguments. I mean, there's always all these arguments that release the pressure for us to be able to change our own behavior, right? These emotions, like, oh, Jason, you know, depression is a chemical imbalance. So is joy. So is horniness, right? So is any other emotion. It's a chemical imbalance in your brain. Which one are you choosing? Because there is a
which
there is a
label? Which
there is
label
a
are you choosing?
formula.
Yeah, which label are you choosing to take and slap on yourself? And
It's
look,
not
I'm a
even
spider.
the label is one thing, but the formula that has to create that emotion is in existence, right? For me to be happy, there is a formula and I know what it is, right? I have to monitor my breathing. How am I standing? What am I thinking? Like, what does my future look like? Do I have a compelling future? All of these things combined, if you educate yourself, you can be in a constant state of joy with flashes of anger or flashes of sadness or flashes of these other things. But if you're in that state of joy and your automatic response is to love somebody, you know, then it changes your direction. You know, it changes your behaviors. It changes your ability to be able to perform in this life. Right. And we sit around and we go, well, you know, there's the racism thing, you know, and it goes back. Like, I think about how selfish it is for somebody who's never experienced slavery to sit around and talk about something that was happening 300 years ago, right? Because ultimately, and you're from Portugal, you know, your family comes from Portugal. My family comes ultimately from Spain. Like, none of us are from here, you know, and we came over, and the Native Americans, everybody's people has experienced being a slave to other people
Absolutely.
throughout history. And by the way, more light-skinned people have been enslaved for longer than dark-skinned people. This is historical fact, right?
There's still 30 million. There's still 30 million in slavery
This is
now.
that's my point I'm driving to. Today, as we sit here and speak, there's 30 plus million labor slaves and 31 million labor slaves in the world, but they happen to be Asian, or they happen to be Hispanic or Guatemalan or some other race that happens to be making things like our cell phones, like the computers that we're on. And so we don't speak up. We want to continue to beat that drum of something that we think it's just an excuse. It's another escape valve to say, hey, by the way, I'm set upon. Life is not easy for anybody. I don't care what your skin color is. I don't care. You know, yes, it's harder during, you know, throughout time. At the end of the day, all I can do is what I can do today. And that's to love my brothers and to love my sisters. And in order to do that, then we should be looking at who are the slaves of today? Because they're really victim. What is a true victim? It's somebody who's had choice ripped out of their life. Right. The slaves that are over in China right now, that are, you know, being used as slave labor, the Hispanics and the Guatemalans that are coming across our border so that people here can use them and pay them under the table. That's slavery. Right. And there's a lot of that stuff that's going on. And then you have sex slaves that are adults, and you have sex slaves that are children. Right. I've chosen to focus on the kids because, again, at the end of the day, they've had choice ripped out of their life. Somebody's taken something that doesn't belong to them, and they need people like us to stand up. How many of our black brothers, our black sisters, our Hispanic brothers and sisters, our white brothers and sisters, our Asian brothers and sisters, our gay brothers and sisters, our lesbian sisters, you know, these kind of things. How many of them, if they put down their own victimization, could rise up and solve the problem of today so that it doesn't roll forward generationally, right? how many, if we all stood up together against a true evil, how quickly could we solve this issue and understand we're all individuals, and the most perfect document besides the Bible that's ever been written is our Bill of Rights, right? Our Constitution. And if we could adhere to that, that means that we're protecting there you go. That means that we're protecting the sovereignty of our Black, our Asian, our Hispanic, our white, our gay, our straight, all of these things. We're protecting the sovereignty of that individual. And that doesn't mean we're always going to agree, but it means that we can't step on each other's toes, right? And so anyway, there's a lot of history in what I just said. I'm an addict. I'm a nerd when it comes to history, because you've heard that statement over and over and over again, is if we don't learn from history, we're bound to repeat it. I've heard that over and over and over again. And you hear it from people, literally, oddly enough, that are repeating history. They're like, okay, well, now, like, okay, we have the Black community, my Black brothers and sisters, and now we're making white skin, we're literally putting it in school books that white skin is a bad thing. Somebody that was in our room on Clubhouse, there was some of the comments that I was watching and listening to. It's like, you don't know what it's like to be in black skin. I don't. I don't. And you don't know what it's like to be in white skin, right? And you don't know, and I don't know what it's like to be in brown skin. I don't know what it's like to be in an Asian's body. I don't know. I can only speak for Jason Cisneros' experience. And my experience is that life is hard for everybody, and that more love, right? And love comes across, and then I'm going to shut up and let you talk. But love to me is not a fluffy, you have to accept everything from everybody. Love sometimes is very violent, and it's violent in the protection of those that need protected. I have strength, right? Personally, I have financial strength. I have physical strength. I have mental strength. I have spiritual strength. And that means that God has called me forward to be able to stand up for those weaker than me. And it doesn't matter. I don't care if we get a call, somebody calls the hotline to say, hey, our child has been taken. We don't have a checklist that goes, is your child gay? Okay. Is your child Black? Okay. Is your child white? Okay. Is your child a boy or a girl? What's the gender of your child? Like, we don't have a checklist. We don't have a checklist. There is no checklist. It's, there's a child gone. Let's go get them. Right. That's it. There is no predetermined. It doesn't matter what the family's background is. It doesn't matter how much money they have. We won't take any money from anybody when we're going to get these kids anyway. Right. That we completely operate on donations, and there's no list. There's no pre-list. It's that we love God. God has said when we're here, we have to stand up for the widows, for the children, and for the elderly. Right. That's what God called us to do in our lives. And if you're not doing that because you're being so damn selfish that you have to look at some, a fake victimhood thing that you're going through. If your victim choice has been taken out of your life, you should call us, right? Because that's domestic violence. If you're starving, or if your child has been taken or somebody's been abducted, like, choice has been ripped out of their life. Otherwise, you should be in the damn fight.
Exactly right. And and it's like you said, so many of the problems that are existing today in the fights, so to speak, they're fabricated. They're fabricated. And the reality of it is, we need to get to the point where we can have some civil discourse, have civil debates, have conversations, so that you can try to understand my point, I can try to understand yours, and maybe we meet somewhere in the middle. That's the way it's always been done. That's the way it should be done. But now everything is so polarized. And
it can be uncivil. It can be uncivil.
It can be uncivil.
As long as we understand we're trying to solve a problem on the other side, it can be uncivil because, everybody's like, oh, words hurt me. Yeah. Okay. I get it. It hurts your feelings. But like Pastor Rudy says, words don't hurt, a fist to the face does.
Yeah, right. Well, and ultimately, the word, is it better for the words to hurt today? Or is it better for you to feel the pain tomorrow? Was it better to have the mean tweets and $1.90 gas, or not have mean tweets and pay $5.50 or $6 like we've paid? Now, and again, that's not a political statement per se. It sounds like it is, but it's just a great example. Before, somebody was saying something mean, but he was getting things done effectively and efficiently, and we were in a much better place. Again, regardless of who it was, because if the shoe were on the other foot, I'd be singing the same tune, by the way. And yet now we have somebody that makes us feel good,
Yeah.
makes us feel good, and we're here to have an ice cream, but we're paying $5, $6 a gallon for gas. I thank God I filled up my heating oil tank, in the beginning when it was still under $4. Now, last time I checked, it was like $5.85. I don't know. I haven't checked lately. So hopefully it's back down. But to your point of the agitators, the black white thing, specifically the black white, because we're not talking about black, white, Hispanic, Indian, Asian. No, it's just the black white thing. That's the jar that's being shook right now. And I heard something the other day and I thought it was brilliant. And I just heard it reshared recently again. If you take somebody that did an experiment, they took a handful of black ants and they put them in a jar. And they took a handful of red ants and they put them in a jar and they closed the lid. The black ants were doing their thing on this side, building, doing whatever. The red ants were on the other side of the jar, doing their thing, living whatever, happily living, coexisting, cohabitating. Somebody just, picks up the jar and goes like this. And the ants all freak out. And they start attacking each other because it had to be the red ants. No, it was the black ants. And the ants are now fighting and killing each other because the red thinks that the black is the enemy. The black thinks the red is the enemy. The reality is the enemy is the person who shook the jar. And in today's world, that's the media, who's controlled by whoever you want to believe or not believe. Because listen, there's still people out here 2 years later into this pandemic that still don't suspect anything. 3 years, I guess, right? 2020. Yeah. We're almost 3 years into the pandemic and people just don't suspect anything. There's nope, nothing to see here. No, actually, it might not be as bad as people say, but in every good conspiracy theory, there's a healthy level of truth. And if you go back and look at the conspiracy theories for the last couple of years, conspiracies, theories are like way up in the scoring on the scorecard. And again, that's not the conversation we're having, but
yeah, it's like a business that it's funny because I walk in, I mean, my background is business and
by the way, what I think is funny that we went from, and not that we have a lot of viewers here today, but we went from 8 viewers to 4 viewers. Perhaps those 4 viewers were the ones that should have stayed on, because that's the whole thing is you got to stay and listen through those tough conversations. Listen. Well,
we're a couple of old white guys, bro. Our opinions don't matter. So
that's true.
Is what it
my
is.
last name is Rodrigues and yours is Cisneros, so we're kind of white.
I know,
but we're not white. By the way, we're not for some. We're not white enough.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I don't care.
That's so true. Well, but at the end of the day, you look at like what going back to this whole concept of shaking that jar, and we find ourselves in a day and age where people are we hand things over to people that say the right words, right? And that's what has happened with this particular, the worst government we've ever seated ever. Like I said, both sides, but specifically our president right now is a complete moron. And things it's like a business. I walk into businesses and my company has been doing this for a lot of years.
And by the way, pause just for a second, just so anyone who's watching understands, Jason just sold recently in the last 2 years.
Yeah, don't talk numbers. Companies. Yeah.
26 of his companies with over 6,000 employees, just so you get an idea and engage. So when he talks about business, it's business.
Yeah, it was like, it gave me the freedom to be able to say what I want and not worry about it. Anybody doesn't like me, I'm not selling you shit anyway. So I already made my money. But my point is that we still, I still own and I'm chairman of one of the greatest consulting companies in the country. And what we see a lot is we see people, I walk in or Joe or Carlos or whoever's, happens to walk in on that consultation, and you look at it and you look at the company. And sometimes I've had to sit down with a business owner and say, hey, your company is walking dead. Well, what does that mean? It just means that you haven't run out of cash yet. Right? That's it. Unless you shift the underlying behaviors, you're already out of business. You're just living on the goodwill of the bank or the goodwill of investors or the, whatever it is. You're still, but the business isn't out of business until there's no more money to pay the bills. Right. And our country is the exact same way right now. We are walking dead. Like this country is walking dead. And we just haven't hit that point yet where the stock market drops through the floor. The dollar is worth nothing. Inflation's through the roof. And we can still, that's what I've been doing my whole entire life. I'm a turnaround guy, right? That's my My specific skill set is being a turnaround guy, fixing broken businesses. And I look at this country, like the fight that I've been in hasn't been a black and white thing, which is always irritating to me when all of this other nonsense gets thrown into the conversation, because that's not what it's about. Everybody is going to suffer if America falls. Everybody. And we don't realize it doesn't matter. You can be a proud Democrat that took down Donald Trump, but guess what? When you are starving, when your child is starving, you could be a proud Republican who supported Trump or supports, these McConnells, the idiots of the world that are running the country right now. Right. But it doesn't matter, because when all of this topples because of the selfishness, you and your family are going to suffer. Right. That's what I'm saying, is that no matter what happens with that business owner, when we walk in, we have to speak truth. We have to speak truth to say, hey, these are the things, but we can save it here. Here's the things that we have to do. You have to modify your behavior, right? And in order to modify your behavior, your mentality has to change. Your beliefs have to change. The way that you speak and the way that you deal with things has to change. How you're treating your customers, how you're treating your employees. It all has to change, unless you want to just go ahead and go out of business. The country's the same way. We have to be able to have these conversations and go, let's talk about what it's really about. Right? They're taking away your sovereignty by taking away your ability to run a small to mid-sized company. Right? They're taking away your sovereignty by modifying your ability by Twitter, before Elon Musk, Twitter 1.0. By them, now we know they coordinated with our law enforcement, our centralized government, and they were coordinating with a company, a freely held company. We now know that our First Amendment had an end run around it. We now know that for a fact, right? We know it for a fact. And that only happens to countries in decline. Venezuela, third wealthiest country, 10 years later, they're eating their zoo animals because everybody's starving to death. It happens. It's predictable. So what I'm doing in the fight is to say, let's stop talking about all these other nonsense. I don't care if you're black, if you're white, if you're Hispanic, gay, straight, it doesn't matter to me. Are you an American? Right? Are you willing to fight the fight for people that because that's what builds on our constitutional republic, is, are you willing to sacrifice for people that are doing worse off than you? That's why I've been in the fight. I could have left. I could have bought an island. I could be hanging out somewhere watching all of this with a Mai Tai in my hand. Right. And trust me, I've had that thought multiple times because of how many people don't pay attention, right? How many people attack me for caring, right? So how many people attack me and come after me because of the things that I'm involved in. Sometimes I want to go, people don't want to help themselves. Okay. And when you do help, you get attacked for it. Why am I even trying? You know what I mean? Why am I even trying? And I've had that impulse, and every single time I come back to, I'm not here for me. I'm here for we. I'm not here for me. God put me on this earth to do good things, right? To protect. And that's ultimately who I answer to, is God and Jesus Christ. And if I'm doing the right things in the Bible, then ultimately that's the thing, right? I want to show up to those pearly gates and have him say, well done, right? Yeah. Well done.
Well, and that's what we're all here for, right? We're all here to help each other through this little thing called life, the difficult moments. And it's in those difficult moments that we have to lean in and reach out to somebody who's maybe going through a harder time, which is kind of how this conversation started. By the way, this is Tony and Jason Unscripted, right? So none of this is scripted. That's why we kind of bounced around all over the place here. But listen, we're so glad that you guys are here. See, Bryce made a comment, but Bryce, I need my glasses, brother. Yeah. Craving you. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Bryce says, keep up the great work, guys. There's a huge audience out there craving leaders like you two. Love this. Proud to have found you both. And we're proud to have you among us as well. You and everybody else that's on this journey with us. And listen, and one of the ways that we're fighting a little bit of this injustice, and we're giving people a little bit of control, because look, we all have 2 votes. Right. We have one that we cast at the ballot box. And I've been jokingly saying, it may or may not be counted, or may be counted multiple times. But, again, that's tongue in cheek, of course. But the other one is your vote. You vote with your dollar. Where are you spending your money? And the companies that you're spending your money, are they for freedom? Are they for your beliefs, your values? Or are they against your beliefs and values? Are they following some of the radical ideals that are going on these days and having, the madness that's happening in our schools? And as bad as the madness is when somebody goes and does something crazy in schools, right now our leadership is doing crazy stuff in schools, putting transvestites and not transvestites though, what do they call them, drag queens at reading hour in 2nd and 3rd grade, trying to teach our little children all kinds of crazy things. And again, this is not to get political, but I'm fiercely protective of those that I love, and it starts with our children, as is Jason. And you know what? I fiercely protect not just my kids, but any of the kids, as does Jason. So it's where you're spending your dollar, and that's where you have control. And how about if we give you the opportunity to spend your dollar in your own store, giving people the opportunity to have that side business, to have that. So many people have that entrepreneurial spirit, yet they don't have the resources. They don't have the technological know-how. They don't have the context. They don't have the resources to be able to put together a proper business, whether it be e-commerce or anything else. Right. So what Jason and I and several of our co-founders have done is we're launching a new marketplace, by the way. We're really excited to share with you, even though, again, this is at the back end of some pretty interesting conversation here.
Well, I think we ought to do a whole show about it. Maybe that's our next Unscripted, because economic freedom is a concept which is why we built Noblest. It's NOBLEUS.com, right? And several of you that follow me and certainly follow Tony, you've heard about it before, and we'll do a whole show about it, later. I know you have to go and we want to give it justice, but ultimately the fight the reason why I can fight the way that I do is because I freed myself financially. Right. And that was, from a bad family, coming from a poor family. I didn't graduate from high school. Like, there's all of these things that a lot of people use as excuses, and they really don't work when you have a free a free country like the United States that offers that opportunity for you to be able to plant your own flag, increase your skill sets, get better at customer service, get better at financial management, getting better at treating your employees better, getting better at learning math, all those things. We live in the greatest country for that to be able to happen. You can't do that in Italy. You know what I mean? Like, you're born, and yes, they give you enough money to where you can exist, but you can't succeed. You can't overshoot in other countries. And I mean, I speak to Italy because I know I have a couple of good friends that moved here. We have one, Giuseppe, that always joins us.
Portugal's the same way.
Yeah,
there's people that are
all
doing
of the countries. All of the countries in this world are the same way right now, except for here.
Yeah, they can do well.
Let's just give it to them. Let's just give away that opportunity. No,
that's right.
Not on my watch.
Oddly enough, we are giving people that opportunity.
Yes, we are.
Especially till the end of this year. So Noblest is the best way to sell online. It's a new e-commerce marketplace that you can have your own business, your own e-commerce business, a fully stocked turnkey e-commerce business that you don't have to buy. You don't have to negotiate, buy, warehouse. You don't have to pull, pack, ship. You don't have to deal with the customer service, the returns, credit card processing, or any of that. We've got a solution for you. It's called Noblest. And I've put on the streaming below here, noblest.com/partners/liberty gives you access to those stores to sign up. And by the way, that store is $799 and $59 a month to keep it open. Right now, till the end of this year, we've decided to let everyone that's watching this, everyone that hears our voices, sign up for a free store, meaning you don't have to pay the $799. We've removed all barrier to entry, and you can have your own store. Now, what does that mean, by the way? Well, what am I going to sell in the store? You don't actually have to sell anything. We've pre-negotiated with wholesale manufacturers, owners of product and manufacturers. We've got over 600,000 products that you use on a regular basis right now loaded into the site. The first stores are going to open a week or so from now, first couple of stores, and then all the other stores are going to open shortly thereafter. So the things that you're already buying online right now, toothpaste, if you order product, household goods from the internet, you can get those things. If you're ordering sports gear, you're ordering outdoor apparel, you're ordering apparel in general, we've got 600,000 products for you to purchase. And here's the great thing. The profit that Noblest makes on any of those products, we split it with you, the store owner, 70%, and we only keep 30%. furthermore, and there's another level of affiliate. There's an affiliate link as well that you can make up to 75% of all the profit that we make. And we're doing that to support the middle class. We're doing that to support US based businesses, because on the other side, all of our suppliers are US based businesses. So I just wanted to share that.
And for content creators to be able to optimize the audience that they fought so hard to build, right?
100%.
A lot of you out there, you know, you sell a hat and a shirt, and that's great. It's awesome. But what if the people that love you enough to follow you around, especially the canceled influencers, right, that have bounced back and forth? Charlie Kirk was one of our first people that came on with us, right? He's been bounced off of everything here and there, but still has 8+ million people that follow him around, right? And he saw the opportunity to be able to offer the people that love him enough to follow him around during this entire time to say, hey, just what you, I'm not even, they're not, we're not even at, we don't own a store, by the way. We're not in competition. We are building a store for you. If you're not successful, we're not successful. It's exactly the way that I wanted to set this up. And ultimately he say, you know, Charlie Kirk looks at it and goes, well, they're already there. And if I have done a good job at creating and offering and giving value, then why wouldn't they buy from me? You're going to buy toilet paper somewhere anyway. Why wouldn't you buy from him, and or set up your own store and buy toilet paper from yourself and tell your people around you so that you can make some extra money? Like it's all those principles lined up, everything that we talk about on Saturday in Clubhouse, by the way.
Yeah, 100%. By the way, join us on Clubhouse. If you're not in the app, I'll probably put the link somewhere in the chat here so you guys can actually sign up. The one thing that's really cool too, that and the reason we decided to let you sign up for free stores until the end of the year is we have decided that for the nonprofits, the churches, the charities that are 501c3, we are going to be donating those stores in perpetuity. What does that mean? That means you can support your favorite charity. You can support your church just by going and buying from their store, right? And you're actually giving them more than you would. Majority of people don't give more than $100, $200, $300 to their favorite charity. Some give more. If you give more, God bless you. Yet some people don't give that much because they don't have that much to give. So this is just another way for you to be able to support the things that you support, the things that you value, simply by shopping on their stores. And by the way, here's a really great thing. It's the same price that you're going to find at Walmart, same price you're going to find at Target and at Dick's Sporting Goods and Kmart and Amazon and everywhere else. We're price competitive, and it's just a great opportunity. So that link that you see here, it's nobilis.com/partners/liberty. Get in there, sign up for a free store. We only got about 15 days, 16 days left before that goes away. Then it's $7.99. So listen, with that said, I do have to go because I've got to go be on daddy duty. So I appreciate all of you. Jason, I appreciate you, brother, seriously, love for how you show up in the world and for everything that we're doing together, man. Much love, brother. And for everybody, thank you so much for watching. And remember, my friends, I got to finish it off this way. That life is not about how many times you fall. It's about how many times you get up. You fall down 7, you get up 8. And every single time you fall, you have the opportunity to learn. Every time you get up, you have the opportunity to grow. And every single time you fall, you have the opportunity to get up and grow. Grow we must, grow we will, and grow we shall. Appreciate you. I'll see you guys on the other side. Jason, hang on there for a minute.
Okay.
Have a great one, everybody.